All right. Today we are going to be talking about if I was seriously injured in a motorcycle accident, will the legal practice take years? And how do I survive financially in the meantime? Welcome to a new informative segment of Moto Talks with Mitch and Mel for the law firm of Proner and Proner. I'm your host and fellow writer, Mel Maguya. And as often as we can, we will sit down with a personal injury expert himself and writer, Mr. Mitch Proner, a personal injury attorney with over 30 years of experience, here to answer your questions or any interesting topics that you might find useful in the personal injury world. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Always happy to provide information, and hopefully it's entertaining and of use.
Yes, definitely. Now, before we start, I do have to ask you a question. Have you been on any rides lately?
Yeah, I have. I took a ferry and a ride into Connecticut. Spoke to a bunch of clubs and came back and enjoyed it.
Oh wow, I've never been on the ferry with a motorcycle. I got to try that. Seems like fun. I mean,
So I'll give
it's
you some.
here.
I'll give you some advice that uh, I learned. You got to put the kickstand down.
Oh,
You know,
oh,
you don't want to be there. Like if you're at a red light, you feel
yeah,
comfortable.
yeah,
Um, when just waiting, right, with your feet on the ground
yeah.
on a ferry, and you're on your bike. Um, when the ferry moves, the bike can act strangely, and if you're not aware, all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
trying to keep the bike up, and it's just easier to put the kickstand down and don't try to balance it.
Oh, I thought they strapped them down. So you just roll on and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
So there's two different types of ferries, and I've done both.
Okay.
There's the type of ferry where you stay on your bike, and there's the type of ferry where you leave your bike and you go upstairs and have a cup of coffee. Typically, there's some ferries that are like 10 minutes and some ferries that are an hour and 20 minutes, and I've done both.
Okay.
And that's a story.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I had no idea. I immediately learned something new. All right. So before we start, folks, just remember, if you need to contact us, all consultations are free and confidential. Call us at any time at 1-800-321-1234. So yeah, let's just jump right into it, Mitch. So let's say, for example, if I was seriously injured in a motorcycle accident, will the legal process take years? And how do I survive financially in the meantime?
So unfortunately, it can be a hardship. So here's the story. There's different types of motorcycle accidents and different types of cases.
Okay.
So two types. One case is with serious injuries, and the other case is not so serious injuries. Maybe some road rash, maybe just some abrasions and some bumps and bruises, and you're back at work and back riding in a few weeks. Second type or consideration is one type of motorcycle accident is a car pulls out of a parking lot or makes a left turn or pulls out from a stop sign, just doesn't see you. That's one type. Second type is maybe a side swipe where they see the motorcycle came into my lane and the motorcycle says, no, he came into my lane. And it's a question of fault. Okay. So that's two different types of motorcycle accidents regarding injuries and regarding liability. And of course, you could have variables with those two types. So you could have the contested liability with minimal injuries, contested liability or fault with major injuries. Okay. So third thing is how much coverage is there? How much coverage is how much the other vehicle has to insure the incident, to insure the other vehicle. So there's also sometimes different levels of coverage. Now, let's start off with a case with small injuries. A case with small injuries shouldn't take a long time. But sometimes those small injuries turn out to be more complicated than the rider initially thought. So it just seemed like bruises and abrasions, some road rash. And then it turns out you're hopping around. Your knee's not getting better. And now you need an operation on your knee. Well, that could make the case a little bit longer because you can't settle the case for the abrasions and then come back and say, wait a minute, it was worse than I thought. I need more money. Once it's settled, it's settled. But if it's just abrasions and there's no complications and you're better, then that case should be presented and settled relatively quickly, within a month or two, maybe 6 if they're contested, meaning there's an argument over who's at fault. Now, if there are major injuries, but there's only a little bit of coverage, let's say the minimum in New York is $25,000. You should be able to get that $25,000 as soon as you get your medical records. Send to the other side, they should put up the 25. That should be settled pretty quickly, but you might not be able to get more if your attorney can't find a deep pocket to pay for it.
Oh,
And the attorney's required to look to see if there's a deep pocket they can pay for it. But if it's just a minimum policy and you've got major injuries, it can be settled pretty quickly.
okay.
It might not be for very much money.
Okay. Wow. All right. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's suppose there's major injuries and a deep pocket. There's $5 million in coverage and major injuries, but they blame the rider. Well, that case is going to be litigated, and that case can take 3 to 5 years. Now, can it ever go faster? Yeah, it can happen in a year and 6 months. But usually that case is going to take a long time. 3 to 5 is an average. Now, during that 3 to 5 years, you might have some financial hardship. But you, as a rider, don't have the option to say, I want my money now.
Oh.
If the insurance carrier wants to defend it, they have a right to defend it. And they don't have to pay before they're held accountable. And your attorney has to have the ability to try a case. I've tried more motorcycle accident cases perhaps than any other attorney in the country. I've handled them in 30 different jurisdictions. I've done motorcycle versus car, motorcycle versus truck, motorcycle versus bus, motorcycle versus motorcycle, roadway defect case, improper signage cases, failure to retract kickstands, exploding gas tanks. I've done a lot of them and tried them successfully and lectured to attorneys across the country and handle these cases. But I can't do them any faster than they'll move through the courts. So during that time, what can you do? You might have disability insurance. You might have health insurance to pay for your bills. You might have a nest egg put aside. But beyond that, the only thing you could do is perhaps get a loan. And we have lending companies, but these lending companies, they charge, I don't have any real ability to lend them directly out of my pocket. That's unethical for an attorney. So you got to go to one of these lending companies, and they charge 36% interest compound. But you could usually get a limit on that for double the amount borrowed. So if you borrow 100 grand, you only have to pay back 200. And if your case is worth 5 million, you can afford to pay back that 200 at the end. And that's the only solutions that the law provides.
Wow. So what happens if my injuries prevent me from working or ever riding again? I mean, who pays for that?
You got to get a lawyer that can try and get you the money that's fair. compensation for those injuries. But there's no special fund other than Social Security disability that'll pay for it. And insurance carriers don't have to pay you while you're going through rehab or for your permanency until there's a final settlement. They don't have to pay. That's the rule.
So essentially, if I have to keep, I'll have to keep paying my, for example, my own medical care while I wait for his settlement.
Yeah. Well, some doctors will treat you on a lien basis, and an attorney can usually find those doctors that'll treat you where they get paid at the end of the case. So you can get your medical care taken care of. As far as your lost earnings, there's lending companies, as I mentioned, but there's no, the party that's at fault is not going to pay for that. They won't.
All right. So then, is there any way, or how can you make sure that the other side isn't just stalling the case while you
they're
suffer
going to.
financially?
They're going
Oh,
to.
really? Oh, wow.
They're
Okay.
going to. It's in their interest to, because every insurance carrier has the obligation to put aside reserves under the law. They have to set aside money for every claim that's brought in order for them to write more policies. But those reserves are invested and they draw interest of it. So they're making money off their reserves. So why would the insurance company give up the money they can make off the reserves unless they've got an attorney moving the case? And you got to make sure your attorney's doing his job, which unfortunately I like my work. I'll do it. But not every attorney. An attorney might be the biggest firm and they might be overburdened with other cases and they don't care about the rider.
Yeah.
That's just, the luck of who you get when you get a big firm. But here I ride and I'll do my best to take care of you.
Great. Well, that's definitely apparent. Thank you, Mitch. So, yeah, so there you have it, folks. You heard it from the expert himself, Mitch Proner. Don't forget, if you need our help, give us a call 24/7 at 1-800-321-1234, where consultations are free and confidential. That'll do it for now. And thank you again for taking your time to tune in. Now, whether it's on our podcast or video broadcasts, we really do appreciate you taking the time. And please, if you haven't done it yet, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Like, share, and please subscribe so you can get the latest updates. Now, before we go, Mitch, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah. Ride safe. Ride like you're invisible, because you are. The other vehicles don't see you. So be careful out there. Have fun.
Excellent. Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Mitch. Thank you again for another informative session. And thank you all for checking us out. And remember, we ride just like you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks, everybody, for listening.